There's a moment that every leader has experienced and definitely knows. It's that moment when the meeting you've set up and established goes completely off the rails and everyone pauses and they look to you and you don't have an answer. Real leadership begins right there, in that space and that breath between what's happening and how you respond. It's not about pretending to be in control. In that moment when they're all looking at you and they're like, he's got to have the answer. It's what we're paying him for. It's why he's here. The ability to be calm in that perceived chaos is where the value comes through. Chaos is it's not necessarily just like noise or conflict. What I've seen is it's when people really stop trusting that things are going to get better. Chaos essentially comes through when hope is gone. When you stop believing that you're going to be okay. When you lose complete trust and faith in the processes or systems or people that you've been relying on. So in those moments, you have to rebuild. You got to rebuild with individuals and those teams. Trust. Especially when emotions run high and communication breaks down. And that's kind of one of those things that I've developed over my lifetime. I help people slow down. I myself have had to learn to slow down. I help people see clearly. I myself have had to learn how to see clearly. And from that, I help rebuild with intention. That's why I guess it's one of my brand promises. One of the ways I developed this is, a few years back, I became an EMT. And one of those is an emergency response. Being calm is not optional. It's a requirement because, as one of my mentors told me, if you bring the emergency to the emergency, you can no longer be useful or helpful. And so there's this line, you have to learn how to hold space for others even when you don't have certainty for yourself. In coaching training, it talks about self-management. And the exposure component of that in very real ways helps you stay grounded and centered when everything else around you has this perceived falling apart nature to it. The nice thing is this, though. When you're the calmest person in the room, you give permission to others for them to breathe, which is invaluable. It's really important. It's important that when things get loud, speak simply. When people are scared, speak honestly. It's not only important, it's vital. So it's quite practical. There's a quiet power to honest communication. When you name what's true, when you don't overpromise, when you keep it real, people feel seen and they feel understood. And in that moment, that's how you can start to incrementally build trust. It's one of the things I loved about coaching, the philosophy. I don't fix people. I help them reconnect with their own strength and direction. And it doesn't come from a life, the clarity doesn't come from having all the answers. It really comes from bringing everyone back to what matters most to them. That's that oil and water analogy of when all this chaos, right now, even though you got trees and leaves and wind blowing all around me, and able to kind of be like the eye in the storm and just hold that. It allows you to breathe, allows you to relax, allows you to be calm, and allows you to get present to what matters most to me right now. And then the next action, how could I take an action that's consistent with that? And expressed value, When everything feels out of control, your calmness becomes your anchor. And it guides you. It's a thing you can return to moment by moment, begin again. As a result of that, when I say leadership is a trained skill, leadership isn't about being fearless. Ultimately, it's about staying real and steady, especially when things are uncertain. Because the truth is, chaos will always come, but so will clarity if you give it space. Give it space.